Well, g'day, and welcome back again to Ching. And today we're down here by the river. We're going for a walk along the river. Got the drone with us, so as we're walking along, we get the drone up and give you a look at some of the stuff along the river from the air, which should be interesting. We might even try and get right over the other side to Gao Yao. I was going to go out on the electric bike because we've done a few videos walking along here. I was going to get out on the electric bike, but that's plugged in, charging up at the moment, so we're sticking close to school. And we got rain in a couple of hours, so I couldn't really put it off too long, unfortunately. But we got two really good comments from the last video we did, the America and China working together videos. So we're going to reply to these and have a little chat about them because I quite enjoy responding to these videos. So our first comment is from, am I going to publish? Yeah, I'm going to say the names, bugger it. Valderith. So Valderith commented, "You do realize we have outsourced all," so I'm guessing this guy or girl is from America. "You do realize we have outsourced all our jobs to overseas, majority of which is China. What good will it bring American people to continue this cycle of economic death? KFC, McDonald's are all that exist for lower middle class workers. Most factories and good paying jobs have been pushed to slave labor over there. Sorry, but time for Americans to be selfish." So, let's start at the bottom. Time for Americans to be selfish. Yes, I agree to a degree. It's you know, the whole "Make America Great Again" thing, you know, putting America first. I agree for America. Hello. I agree for America. That's fine. No problem. I think all countries should be doing that. All countries should be, you know, putting their people first. No question, agree with you 100%. But it's also a very, very integrated world these days. You can't have everything your way. For any company that is operating just in America, they're not going to be that successful. They need to operate in other countries. So for that to be able to work, you have to be able to work cooperatively and actually have a bit of give and take. It can't be all America first. It has to be, yeah, America first where appropriate. So yeah, putting America first, I have no issue with that. Right, most factories and good paying jobs have been pushed to slave labor over there. Now, you might want to do a little bit of research. Slave labor over here doesn't exist. That is an absolute lie that has been pushed by American organizations, CIA and whoever, the government bureaucracy, bloody agencies in America. They've been firmly debunked for a country that supposedly supports the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. They're making it very, very hard for Uyghurs in the rest of China to get work anywhere. Any company that exports to other countries is now very, very hesitant to actually hire Uyghurs. So, you know, no, slave labor, that's just bollocks. Cheap labor, yes, cost of living here is much lower, wages are much lower, but it's not slave labor. You are absolutely kidding yourself if you believe that stuff happens. It just doesn't. Come and visit. Pay a visit to China and actually have a look at what's going on the ground. If all you listen to is the Western propaganda, you might well be very, very surprised when you get here. A lot of the stuff that I'd heard about China, I never believed before I came here. I was still very, very surprised at a lot of stuff when I got here. It is not the place you're told it is. So, yeah, the slave labor comment was a little bit silly. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, I don't know what's happened to my comments. Oh, I've gone into there. Okay. Right, let's carry on there. Right, so let's go to the start of the comment. You do realise we have outsourced all our jobs to overseas, majority of which is China. What good will it bring American people to continue the cycle of economic death? KFC, McDonald's are all that exist for lower middle class workers. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. It has been done. Now, the issue is, as I mentioned in the previous video, I believe a lot of the issues happening in America in terms of wages and job security and all that sort of stuff, a lot of that comes from US politicians being bought and sold for by big business, by lobby groups, by all this stuff. If you really want to fix America, as I said in the earlier video, the first thing you need to do is change how politicians are allowed to fund their campaigns. And get rid of anybody that's funded by big business. You know, I don't care whether it's left or right, Democrats or Republicans. They are all corrupt. There's only a few who rely on small dollar donations. And whether I agree with them politically or not, I can respect them because they are doing what they feel the people who elect them want them to do. Most politicians over there are doing what the businesses pay them to do. So, in terms of outsourcing the jobs, that's just the way the world works, really. If these companies are going to be allowed to offshore their jobs to places where there's cheaper labour to make products that are easily made. You know, you don't get a lot of high-tech stuff being offshored to poorer countries. That sort of stuff has come to China because China's got... So what happened with China was when they first joined the WTO, and probably even before that, a lot of basic stuff was made here. So, you know, they would make, I don't know, screws or cheap clothing and stuff. But as they've gotten better and better at doing this stuff, they've been upgrading all their stuff. You know, I still, in my head, have this old stereotype that, you know, Chinese products equal cheap and nasty, which is in no way true anymore. That has been thoroughly shown to be false, and yet still trying to get out of my head is, I think it's mostly out of my head now, but there's still occasions when I think, oh, it's a Chinese thing, I should buy something American or Korean or Japanese. Doesn't happen much anymore. In fact, maybe that's almost actually gone. I'm trying to think of the last time I actually thought that way. But as China improved, so, you know, China went from making the parts for, say, the iPhone, the outer shell, the little screws that go in the thing, the little non-technical parts. And gradually, as their production ramped up and became better and better, they're now assembling the iPhones. They're pretty much building all of the components here and assembling. So, I mean, China is starting now to offshore a lot of the stuff that they, America offshored to China. The, simple sort of stuff is now going to places like Vietnam, Laos, stuff like that. So you really want to decide, do you actually want to bring these manufacturing jobs back here? The simple stuff. I saw TikTok videos that Chinese people made of Americans sitting in Apple factories, putting the little screws in the Apple phone and stuff. Do you really want them jobs back? And a lot of manufacturing jobs that, Trump's trying to get to come back with these tariffs. If they do come back, they're going to be largely automated. A lot of the jobs that I think people think about don't really need people involved anymore. It's all changed. And the other sort of thing I mentioned in my reply was Trump's tariffs. And while I have no issue with tariffs per se, so for example, Australia, we had a car industry, Ford, Holden, Mitsubishi had a plant, pretty sure Toyota had a plant in Australia. So we had tariffs in Australia on imported cars to protect our local car industry, which I kind of didn't really agree with all that much, but that's the way it was. So, and I could understand the reasoning for doing it. What Trump has done is just dumped tariffs on everybody without having first the ability to actually produce the things in America that are going to get more expensive for the local consumers there. So how is that in any way intelligent? It's going to take years, probably 5 years minimum, if they can get the money to build the factories to replace all the stuff that is now not going to be imported to America. And even with the tariffs, I don't know how much they can compete on price with countries with a very, very low cost of living. Low cost of living means you don't have to pay people that much to earn the same amount. So the tariffs, it's just ham-fisted. It's not thought through. There's no intelligence behind it. I've watched interviews with Trump from years ago, well before he even thought about running for politics. And he's always had a hard-on for tariffs. I don't know why. I don't think he really understands tariffs. He tells us how brilliant he is, and yet he's threatened to sue his old school if they release his grades. If you're really that clever, you must have got good grades in school. Why would you not want them to be shown, to show how good you are? Trump's not that clever. And this isn't knocking Trump. Specifically, the Democrats aren't much smarter. The tariffs that Biden put on Chinese EVs, the cars coming from China, 100% tariffs. What's that going to do? China is making cheaper cars than America. They're making better cars than America. So all these tariffs are going to, so first of all, they stop American people being able to buy these cars unless they want to pay twice what they're worth. But also other countries that are not trying to tariff all these things, they're going to go, okay, then instead of buying American cars, we're going to buy Chinese cars. So you're not only killing the American people, making their lives more expensive, you're also killing the industries that you think you represent. If the world was behind Trump on this tariff thing, maybe it could work against China. But the fact of the matter is, the world's not behind Trump. The world's woken up really, really quickly. So, yeah, I think all this stuff that's going on at the moment is just going to hurt America, going to hurt Americans, which is a shame, because the American people, as I've said many times, the American people don't deserve this. You deserve far, far better representatives than you've got. I go back again to the difference between politicians in America and politicians in China. When you're running for election in America and in most Western countries, it's all about what do you promise to do. Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, which most of the time they don't do. In China, they don't do any of that when you're running for the local offices. So for those of you who don't know the Chinese system, no, you don't elect the leader as a person, but you elect your local representatives. The local representatives elect the next level up, the provincial. The provincial elect the national, and then the national elect the leader and whatnot. So when you're running for politics here, it's not about what you're promising to do. Politicians here, or wannabe politicians here, don't make promises. Instead, the people are shown what the potential representatives have done. If you want to get elected, prove that you actually want to do things for the community. Don't make empty promises. Show what you've done. And that's a big, big difference. As for bringing jobs back to America, it's just ridiculous. What America really needs to do, in my mind, is to actually innovate, spend some money, innovate, create new things. The services industry in America is huge. For all the talk of trade deficits America has with countries everywhere, they have surpluses in the services industries. Maybe you need to be looking at that, expanding technology, providing technology. Another big issue that's going to hit America. So you look at something like the chips, banning chips from being sold in China. What's that done? So half the chips that are produced by these big American companies are sold to China. So first of all, you're killing those companies. Those companies' profits are going way down. They're going to have to lay people off because they're not going to have to produce so much. And on the flip side, you're making China put money into developing chips themselves, and in 3 years they've come a hell of a long way. So not only is China now getting to a point where they don't need American chips anymore, they're also getting to the point where a lot of other countries are going to start buying Chinese chips because they're good quality and they're much, much cheaper than what they can get from America. So America sort of shot itself in, both feet really, taking away the local companies' profits and adding competition that I don't think they can compete with. The issue with American politicians, I think, is everything they do is very, very short term. It's very, very much trying to win the next 4-year election cycle. And they don't think long term. So one thing, again, I've mentioned before, the Chinese system, yes, it has its faults, yes, it's not perfect, but because of the sort of CCP being in charge, they can make long-term plans. You know, the high-speed rail you see here, first line laid in 2005, if I remember rightly. They've now got over 40,000 kilometres of high-speed rail around the country. China can do that because they can actually plan long-term. They don't have to worry about another party getting in and changing all the plans. Things actually happen here, which is good. So we're going to move on to the other comment that was made. So this is from Tom. This is a long comment, so we're going to break it down into little pieces. So, really enjoyed your walk and talk along the wall. Great drone shots, by the way. I agree with everything you have said regarding what can be imagined and positives to the world if the USA and China had a better working relationship. You mentioned one example, and that is the fight against world poverty. It is commendable when hearing of the efforts China has made in this area. Unfortunately, the USA has what I feel is an acute problem with poverty within its own country, which is surprising given the size and richness of it. So let's stop there for a minute. Yes, a huge poverty problem in America, and it is getting worse. Again, comes back, as we were talking about earlier, to the politicians, allowing people to accumulate so much wealth while not doing anything about things like the minimum wage. Yeah, I read this morning, post come up on Facebook, and I don't know how accurate this is, but Elon Musk, one person, holds the wealth the equivalent of the bottom 50% of the US population. The top 1% of people in America own 90% of the wealth in the United States. That would never be allowed here. You know, and these people are paying peanuts for stuff. And, you know, the people who are claiming to be America first, Elon Musk, where does he build half his Teslas? Where does he source all the parts? They're not American made, they're Chinese made. Lots of parts from China, and he's got the big, huge, big factory in Shanghai. So, yeah, I'm not that far in agreement with a lot of these people who claim to be American first. I don't actually think they are. They are themselves first. And as for the US poverty, yeah, I think a lot of Western countries are going that way. America's sort of led the way with how we allow companies to basically make their own rules, and a lot of other countries seem to be following suit, going down that path, and we're seeing poverty getting worse in a lot of places. The latest figures I've seen are from 2022, where the official poverty rate is 11.5%, totaling 37.9 million people. That's from census.gov from the USA. I've often heard it said that America has the best and worst of everything. That's a really accurate thing to say, the best and worst. You know, you look at healthcare. As far as I'm concerned, for the average person, they have the worst healthcare in the Western world. And yet they have some of the best healthcare facilities, some of the best research into healthcare. Why do they have such poor outcomes for people who don't have so much money? Figure that one out. I see the numbers in China are still quite high, but getting better, and I can imagine it to be a very difficult improvement initiative in a country like China with its vastness and diversity. Yeah, China, I did say China's eliminated poverty. That's not accurate. They've eliminated extreme poverty. There's still plenty of poverty around. There's still things that need to be done, but they've got rid of the worst of it. They've pulled a lot of people up. And while there is still poverty, they have decreased that by a huge number as well. It is phenomenal when you look at the facts and figures. It's amazing. It's absolutely bloody brilliant what they've done. And the diversity, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different cultures and stuff within the borders of China that when they're doing these projects, they have to take all this stuff into account. But getting countries together to work out a plan to tackle the worst cases of poverty in the world is absolutely what our government leaders could be doing. Yes, they could. I would argue it's what they should be doing. Yeah, you look at all the garbage that's happening in the Middle East at the moment with Israel, the Palestinians, with the Houthis and stuff. Imagine if America, China, Australia, Canada, imagine if we all went in and actually helped some of these countries. How much goodwill would we build up instead of going in and bombing these places where they just make people hate us? Yeah, it's one thing I've always heard, you know, people arguing against China going into Africa and building bridges and building railway lines and building roads. You know, the comment is always, oh, they're only trying to win that to try and, they're only doing that to try and win influence and stuff. Well, yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure they want to win influence. I'm sure they want to be able to have a good relationship with these countries. It's better than what America does, which is go in and bomb these countries and try and force them to do their way. If they actually went in with a hand of kindness, I think they'd find they'd have much better results. But that's not the American way. The politicians have to support the military-industrial complex. So what can we say? I would love to see more harmony between countries, as I believe, as you have said, that humanity would benefit tremendously. Yeah, harmony between countries would be a great thing. I look at, you know, China and America and all the stuff that's going on there, all the stuff I see in the media. As I mentioned in the video about China having this thing against communism, which I don't even think half of the American politicians could even define what communism actually is, other than it's bad. They don't really know. I worry though that politicians everywhere don't generally do things on behalf of humanity. They have other incentives more to do with wealth and ego. Agree 100%. They want their backhanders from all their donators. It would be wonderful if Canada and China would adopt a more peaceful and productive stance together, but I feel that the politicians force our country to follow the positions of our American neighbour against China, which I guess is what Canadians can expect as a matter of self-preservation. Maybe Canada's relationship with China would change, though there have been recent minor but positive signs of improvement. But if it did between China and USA, then we all could be better off. Yeah, I actually think the current tariff situation with America is actually going to push a lot of countries towards China and away from America. I think America's always, I don't want to simply blame Trump. America's always acted this way towards anybody who is viewed as a competitor. The difference is with Trump is he comes out and he's honest about it. He comes out and says what he thinks, which, as I've said, when I have discussions with Tony, which we've done a few times on camera, as I've said, Trump's not my guy. I don't like Trump. I think he's a fairly evil man. I have no time for that guy. But I will give him his due. He does appear to be pretty open and pretty honest in what he says. I don't agree with what he says, but at least he's actually telling us what he's doing. I laugh at these Americans, the American farmers. Trump was saying all this stuff well before the election. Yeah, the one that always gets me is we're going to deport all the refugees, all the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, as they say, which is another lie. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're not illegal until a court has deemed them to be illegal. They are allowed to come into the country and claim refugee status. Then they go to court, and if the court deems them not to be refugees, then they are illegally in the country. But beside the point, Trump said well before the election, we're going to deport all these people. Now, all the farmers are up in arms and they're surprised that their workforce that they relied on, which was all these illegal immigrants who are willing to do the jobs that the Americans aren't willing to do for the low wages, they've stopped working for them. I've heard stories of farmers in America having to plow their fields into the ground because they just can't be picked. So, yeah, I think what Trump's come out and done so blatantly, is going to drive countries away from America and towards China. I think a lot of eyes are slowly being opened up. And I think it's a good thing. I think it'll be a good thing for America, because it would be good for America to have its eyes opened and actually think about, it's all well and good, as I said with the first commenter, it's all well and good to say, America first and make America great again. But you're in a world community. You rely on other countries. If you go, right, we're going to make America the great again, we're going to put America first, every other country can suffer. Well, eventually every other country is going to say, well, bugger you, we're just not going to deal with you at all, and we're not going to accept your products. What happens then to America? How much prosperity are you going to have once you've completely isolated yourself? Very little. So, yeah, it might be good if this might be the wake up. I don't think the politicians or the big business owners are going to pay much attention for the time being. But hopefully this is a wake up call for the American people, and they actually start to elect representatives who represent the people. Right, and the last part of this comment was, are you a celebrity there? So many people in the beginning and end of your video pay close attention to your passing, even videoing you. I didn't see that in the recent videos you did walking from the train station to the sports ground. And signed Tom. Yeah, walking from the train station to the sports ground, it was a pretty quiet little area. And that's in Guangzhou as well. In Guangzhou, there's a lot more foreigners around, so it's one of the things I always find a bit strange when I go to those places, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, places like that where there's a bigger population of foreigners. All of a sudden there's no attention paid to me because they see foreigners every day. I'm nothing special. Whereas here, there's very few foreigners here. So I do garner a whole lot more attention here than I do over there. Am I a celebrity? No, not even close. I'm not pretty enough to be a celebrity. But yeah, I mean, sort of to a degree, because of where I am, people do get excited to see me. A lot of people who live here in Jiaoqing don't ever see foreigners. I've had comments on previous videos from Chinese people and videos that I've put on WeChat. comments from people who live here in Jiaqing saying, wow, I didn't know there were any foreigners in Jiaqing. You're the first foreigner I've seen in Jiaqing. It's so yeah, I am a bit special in that sense, but celebrity, no, not yet. Maybe one day, although I hope not. But yeah, it made me laugh when you wrote that. I thought that was good. So yeah, that's really all I've got to say about both of those comments. They were good comments. I think the first comment, other than the slave labor comment, which is just misinformation, I think most of what you said's actually pretty right. I don't think America's going about it the right way at the moment, but hopefully people there wisen up and actually, because like I say, America is a great country full of great people. You deserve better than you get, which hopefully you get what you deserve much sooner. You've got to stop electing these bloody idiots with zero education, with zero brains, with a one-track mind. You need to find people who are a little bit smarter, who actually have the lives of the people they represent as their priority. Yes, it's good at times to prioritize business and stuff, because business can bring prosperity and make the people richer. But if you give the businesses every advantage, all you're doing is making the people weaker, making their lives harder. So yeah, and the second comment, Tom, thanks for the comment. I do appreciate everybody's comments generally. Occasionally there's idiots out there who have no thought. Maybe not have no, have no thought. They hear stuff and they just go with it. Like the slave labor comment. I don't blame you for holding that thought, because it is such a widely spread thing around the world. Generally I don't, if people make these comments, and if they're made in good faith, I generally don't fault people for holding these views, but you have to do your own research and find out the actual truth, because if you believe everything the American government says, which a lot of other Western governments just seem to follow and have no thought of their own, which is another shame, then you're being lied to worse than the Chinese government's ever lied to anybody. It's bizarre. But we're going to finish up there. As we're walking home, we're going to get the drone up in the sky, try and get some shots along the river of the shipping going past and stuff, and have a look at some of the areas over here from the air. Bridge up here, we've got the tower up here that they're working on. So yeah, thanks for watching everybody. If you have enjoyed that, hit that like button, share with friends, subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. Questions or comments, hit us up down in the comment section. As you see, if there's good comments that are worth replying to, I will reply to them. I quite enjoy doing these videos. Getting comments that make me think is a good thing. So keep it up, keep them coming. And if you have anything you'd like to learn about life here in China, in Guangdong, in Jiaqing, again, down there in the comment section, hit us up. You come up with a good idea for something to learn, I'll go away, do some research, make a video for you. But for now, thanks for watching everybody, stay safe, and we will see you all in the next one. Cheers.